The air inside the old alien ship was thick with dust and silence. Only the soft hum of Logan's boots against metal echoed through the hallway. He moved slowly, flashlight in one hand, blaster in the other. He had been scavenging ships like this for years, but this one felt different. Too quiet, too cold, too ... Watched, he stepped over broken crates and shattered glass. Strange symbols glowed weakly on the walls, faded by time and damage. This ship had been part of a slave convoy. He recognized the model from his database, but it had no power, no crew, no signs of life. Still, something had drawn him here, something he couldn't explain. Logan reached the cargo bay, a massive metal door creaking open with a slow hiss. His light cut through the darkness and stopped. There, in the far corner of the room, was a cage. Not a normal cage, this one was glowing slightly, sealed with alien energy fields. Inside it, curled up like a frightened animal, was a tiny alien girl. Her skin was pale blue, her arms thin, her eyes far too big for her face. She had no clothes, just a torn blanket wrapped around her like a shield. When the light hit her, she whimpered and scrambled back, pressing herself into the wall. Logan didn't move, didn't speak. She was shaking, her tiny hands up as if begging him not to come closer. Then she screamed, a high-pitched sound that echoed through the bay like a knife. Her voice was full of terror, words in a language Logan didn't understand, but the meaning was clear. She thought he was a monster. Logan lowered his blaster slowly and knelt down, keeping his hands where she could see them. I'm not here to hurt you, he said softly, even though he knew she wouldn't understand. The girl stared at him with wide, unblinking eyes. She didn't trust him, not even a little. She was breathing fast like a trapped animal. Logan looked around the cargo bay. No signs of other survivors. No weapons, no guards, just her, alone in the dark, locked inside that glowing prison. He stepped closer, slow and careful. She screamed again and tried to shrink into the floor. Her tiny frame shook violently. I won't touch you, he said, still calm, still soft. I just want to help. But the girl didn't believe him. She muttered something that made Logan pause. The ship's translator, still faintly functional, translated her whisper. Don't eat me. Logan blinked, confused. Eat her? Did she really think he would do that? And then it made sense. She'd been raised with fear, with horror stories about humans. Maybe to her, he really did look like a beast. Logan sat on the floor, far from the cage, and opened his bag. He pulled out a protein bar, unwrapped it, and placed it near the edge of the cage. Then he slid it forward slowly, careful not to cross the energy field. The girl flinched, watching with fearful eyes, but the scent of food reached her, and her eyes darted to it. Minutes passed, long and tense. Finally, she crawled forward, grabbed the bar, and rushed back to her corner. She sniffed it, then bit it quickly like someone who hadn't eaten in days. Logan stayed silent, just watching her. She didn't thank him, didn't speak, but she stopped screaming. He checked the cage controls. Old alien tech. He couldn't open it from the outside without risking hurting her. But it was failing, flickering. Maybe soon it would power down. He decided to wait, to watch, to let her see he wasn't a threat. That night, he set up a sleeping mat nearby. He didn't turn his back to her, didn't trap her, just laid there, quietly, while she ate slowly in the corner. The lights above flickered weakly, casting long shadows. Logan whispered, "You're safe now." But he wasn't sure if even he believed it. She didn't sleep. Her eyes stayed on him the whole time, wide and afraid. She was still waiting for him to turn into the monster she was told about. But Logan just closed his eyes, and for the first time in a long while, he dreamed of stars, not screams. Asterisk. The cage opened by itself, just before dawn. The alien energy barrier blinked once, flickered, then faded into the air. Logan woke to a soft chime from his scanner. The lock had failed, just like he thought it would. He sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes, and saw the cage door now wide open. But the girl was still inside, frozen, eyes locked on him like a wild animal waiting to strike. He didn't move, not right away. He let her see that he wasn't a threat. "Your door is open now," he said gently, even though he knew she couldn't understand his words. He reached for a water bottle and placed it a few feet from the cage. She stared at it with hunger in her eyes, but didn't move. Then, something changed. She took one tiny step forward, bare feet almost silent on the metal floor. Her body was still trembling, but she was desperate. Thirst and hunger had pushed her past fear. She reached for the bottle quickly, snatched it, and rushed back into the shadows of her cage. Logan didn't move, letting her drink, letting her feel in control. But suddenly, she stood up, teeth bared, and ran toward him before he could react. Her small, sharp teeth sank into his arm. He cried out, more from surprise than pain. Pulling his arm away, blood dripped down his skin. But he didn't strike back. She stumbled backward, panting, shocked he didn't hit her. Logan looked at her with calm eyes, holding his bleeding arm. "That was your fear, not hate," he whispered to himself. The girl expected punishment, maybe a blast of pain or a scream, but none came. Instead, he opened a med kit and began wrapping his wound. Every movement was slow, every breath steady. She watched, confused, no anger, no violence. She tilted her head, blinking slowly, as if something inside her had cracked just a little. Then, with shaking hands, she placed the water bottle in the middle of the floor and backed away again, her message clear. "I don't understand you, but I'm watching." Logan nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. He didn't say much, but he did speak softly. "My name's Logan," he said, pointing to his chest. "Logan," he repeated, then pointed at her. She flinched, hesitated, then whispered something that sounded like Ziri. That one word changed everything. It was the first time she gave him something, her name. He smiled, not wide, not fast, just enough to show peace. "Ziri," he repeated slowly, then gave a small nod of respect. She blinked and looked down, confused by the kindness. Later, he tried giving her more food, but this time he didn't. "Place it near the cage." He placed it beside his mat and sat down nearby. It was a test, not for her, but for the space between them. Would she come close, knowing she could run away now? Would she dare cross the invisible line? For hours, she didn't move then, when he started working on a power panel nearby. Pretending not to watch her, he heard soft steps, then the quietest sound of chewing. He looked up. Ziri was crouched by the food, eating quickly, her eyes darting. But she wasn't just surviving now. She was choosing. He didn't say anything. Didn't scare her off. He let her sit, eat, then run back to the shadows. That night, something new happened. Ziri came closer on her own. She didn't speak, but she sat near the far wall of the cargo bay while Logan repaired some wires. She watched him, studying his hands, his tools, and the strange way he talked to machines. Logan noticed her gaze and pulled out a spare tool. He placed it gently on the floor and slid it toward her. Ziri jumped at first, then crept forward, picking it up with both hands. She didn't know what it did, but she held it tightly, like a gift, and in return, she picked up a small glowing rock from the floor and placed it near him. A trade, a gesture older than language. She didn't trust him, not completely, but in her mind, maybe for the first time, the human was no longer a monster. He was something else, still strange, still scary, but also kind. That night, Logan lay back on his mat and looked up at the flickering lights. He spoke softly, half to himself, half to the stars. "She bit me," he said with a chuckle. "But she also gave me her name." Ziri lay curled nearby, not in the cage, but on a small pile of fabric he left for her. She wasn't sleeping, but her eyes blinked slower now. For the first time in her life, maybe, she felt safer near a human than far away from one. And though the fear wasn't gone, it had changed into something else. Not trust, not yet, but something close. The third day began with silence, not the cold silence of fear, but a softer one. Filled with waiting, Ziri sat near the wall, knees tucked under her chin, eyes not as wide with panic anymore. She still didn't trust Logan fully, but something inside her had shifted. Fear had cracked, and curiosity was slipping through the gap. Logan sat on the floor near the open engine panel. Working with wires and strange tools, he hummed a quiet tune under his breath. Something old and human. Ziri tilted her head, listening. She had never heard music before, not from someone who didn't want something in return. It wasn't loud, it wasn't harsh, it was soft. She crawled a little closer, just enough to see what his hands were doing. Logan noticed her, but he didn't react. He kept working, letting her watch. He could feel her eyes on him, studying every move. It reminded him of a scared animal. Learning that not every hand means harm, he gently held up a small part like a metal cube with lights inside. "This is a power converter," he said slowly, pointing at it. "Power," he said. Then touched the glowing part. "Boom," he added with a smile. Ziri blinked, confused but curious. She leaned forward a little, then crawled back quickly, afraid of getting too close. Later, Logan placed different tools on the floor between them. A screwdriver, a small scanner, a light. He tapped each one gently, said their names slowly. Like teaching a child, Ziri didn't repeat them, but her eyes followed everything. When he looked away, she reached out and touched the scanner, just. For a second, her fingers were trembling, but they didn't pull back right away. She touched the light too, it blinked blue, and she gasped, then giggled just once before covering her mouth quickly. Logan looked up, surprised, then smiled. Again, Ziri looked down, cheeks glowing faintly in color. Was she embarrassed? That small sound, that little laugh, meant more than words. It meant her fear was melting, piece by piece. Later that day, Logan worked on his food system, a broken heater that barely worked. Ziri walked up behind him slowly, watching him press buttons. She pointed at one and whispered, "Bad part," in her own language. He turned, surprised. "You know this?" he asked, pointing at the circuit. Ziri nodded slowly and pointed again, then made a popping sound with her mouth. "Explode?" he asked. She nodded once more. Logan raised his eyebrows and grinned. "You're full of surprises, little one." Ziri smiled too, just barely, but it was real. Her heart beat faster, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was something new, something strange. That night, Logan showed her a screen, an old display full of star maps. He touched one glowing dot and said, "Earth." Ziri crawled beside him, her eyes wide as stars moved across the screen. He showed her the moons, the planets, the ships once flown by humans. She didn't speak, but her eyes sparkled. Then, carefully, she reached out and tapped a different star. She said something in her soft voice. Logan didn't understand the name, but he saw the sadness in her eyes. "That's your home?" he asked. She nodded once, then looked away. There was pain there. Pain she couldn't explain. He didn't press, didn't ask more. He just sat beside her, letting the stars speak for them both. The silence was no longer scary, it was peaceful. Like sitting with a friend in the dark and watching the sky. The next morning, Logan woke to find a small gift beside him. It was a flat stone, polished smooth, glowing faintly with soft blue light. Ziri had left it while he was sleeping. He held it carefully. It was a charm. Maybe from her people, maybe from her childhood. He didn't know what it meant, but he knew it meant something. Later, Ziri sat beside him while he fixed the outer hull. She handed him tools without being asked, her small hands quick and careful. Logan laughed. "You're a good assistant." Ziri tilted her head, then said a word in her language. He didn't know it, but her voice was proud. By the end of the day, she was walking freely inside the ship. Still cautious, still quiet, but no longer hiding. She even climbed into the co-pilot seat once, pretending to steer. Logan watched her with quiet joy, this tiny creature, once terrified of him, now pretending to fly beside him. It made the cavesty lonely ship feel full of life again. He didn't know what the next day would bring, But for now, Logan knew one thing for sure. Ziri wasn't just a passenger. She was part of the crew. And maybe, just maybe, she was learning that not all humans were monsters. Some were just broken souls, looking for a reason to protect someone. Smaller than themselves, someone who reminded them what it felt like to care. Someone like her. The peace didn't last long. It ended with a red blinking light on Logan's control panel and a loud, sharp alarm. He ran to the front of the ship. Eyes narrowing at the scanner screen. A ship was approaching fast, big, armored and hostile. Ziri peeked from behind the wall. Her face pale, her hands shaking. Logan's jaw tightened. "Not now," he muttered. He pressed buttons quickly, shutting down the power systems to make them harder to detect. But it was too late. The enemy ship had already locked onto them. Ziri crawled beside him, her voice just a whisper. "Bad ones," she said, pointing to the screen. Logan looked at her. "You know them?" She nodded, her small body trembling. "Catch me before. Take others too," she said in broken words. Logan felt something twist in his chest. She had escaped them once, and now they were back. He stood up and grabbed a tool from the floor. Not a weapon, but he wasn't about to let her be taken again. Not without a fight. The enemy ship docked with a loud hiss. A deep voice boomed through their old speakers. "This is the Koran Authority. Prepare for boarding." Ziri flinched at the sound, crawling under a nearby crate. Logan knelt beside her and whispered, "No matter what happens, stay hidden." She grabbed his sleeve with shaking fingers. "Please don't give me," she begged. "I won't," he said. "I promise." Then he stood and walked toward the airlock as the door opened with a heavy clank. Two tall alien soldiers stepped inside, their armor dark and faces cold. They looked around, scanning the empty cargo bay. Logan stood with his arms crossed, leaning against a wall. "This ship's empty," he said, calm and firm. "Just me. And some junk I found." The taller soldier stepped forward, eyes sharp like knives. "We received a signal," he said. "This vessel is hiding stolen property." Logan laughed once. "The only thing stolen here is my peace." The soldiers didn't smile. They moved deeper into the ship, scanning with glowing red lights. Ziri stayed still, holding her breath. Hidden beneath the old crate's shadows, one of the soldiers paused near the wall. He looked down, slowly lowering his scanner. Ziri squeezed her eyes shut. Logan stepped forward fast. "Nothing back there but trash." The soldier turned and stared at him hard and long. "There was movement," the soldier said. "Rodents," Logan shrugged. "This place is full of them." The soldier frowned, but moved on. They checked every room, every corner, except one. They didn't see Ziri. After several tense minutes, the soldiers returned to the main bay. "No sign of unauthorized life forms," one said. "Scan shows only one human," said the other. They glared at Logan, still suspicious. "If we find out you lied," the tall one started. "You'll do what?" Logan interrupted, stepping closer. His eyes weren't scared. They were tired but strong. "I've been alone on Rex for years," he said. "If there was something worth hiding, I'd have sold it by now." The soldiers exchanged a look, then finally turned away. Without another word, they walked out. The airlock sealed behind them, and the docking clamps released. Logan waited until their ship was out of range before he let out a breath. He dropped to one knee, heart racing, sweat dripping down his neck. "Ziri," he called softly. "It's okay now." She crawled out slowly, eyes wide and shining with tears. "You not tell," she whispered. "I'd never," he said, pulling off his gloves and dropping them to the floor. "You're not a secret," he added. "You're family now." Ziri stared at him for a moment, then ran into his arms. She didn't bite him, didn't hide, she hugged him. Small arms wrapping around his neck. He froze at first, then gently hugged her back. It wasn't much, but it was everything. A sign that the wall of fear had finally cracked open. Later that night, she brought him a piece of alien tech she'd hidden. "Can fix this?" she asked. He looked it over. It was a memory core, ancient and dusty. Where did you get this? He asked. She touched her chest. From my ship ... Before bad ones. Logan connected it to his console. It flickered, then lit up, revealing holograms of her world. Ziri's eyes filled with light, watching fields, cities, and other tiny blue beings like her. This is your home? Logan asked. She nodded, tears falling silently. He placed a hand on her shoulder. We'll find it, he said. She looked up at him, her voice barely there. You promise? He nodded once. With everything I have, and somewhere far away in the stars. Her home still waited, but now she wasn't running alone. She had someone who'd protect her, lie for her, fight for her. A human who never saw her as a slave or a tool, but as a girl worth saving. The stars outside the window drifted slowly. The ship floated in silence, hidden between clouds of dust and broken satellite fields. Logan sat on the floor with parts scattered around him. The ship's engine core was failing. Soon they would run out of power and drift into dead space. He sighed and wiped the grease off his face. Ziri sat across from him, hugging her knees. She could feel the tension in the air. Logan hadn't smiled in 2 days. His voice had become quiet too. Quiet, why stop fixing? She asked softly. Logan looked up, surprised to hear her speak first. I'm trying, Ziri, he said, but this ship needs more than I've got. He pointed to the cracked engine crystal. Without a stable core, we're not going anywhere. Ziri stood up and walked to the panel. She tilted her head, her fingers brushing the surface carefully. I know, Crystal, she said. My kind use them to fly. Logan blinked. You know how it works? She nodded once, her face serious. She held out her hand. He placed a broken crystal in it. Ziri closed her eyes and began humming a soft note. The crystal glowed faintly, pulsing with light. Logan leaned in, speechless. What are you doing? He whispered. Speaking to the energy, she said. Crystal listens if we speak right. She hummed again, and the crystal glowed brighter. Logan stared in awe. His tools couldn't do this, but she could. She handed it back with a small smile. Try now. He plugged the crystal into the system. The engine lights blinked green. Logan laughed out loud. You did it. He said, you really did it. Ziri beamed, her small chest rising proudly. From that moment, she followed him everywhere. She asked questions about wires, about maps, about space. Her fear was no longer holding her back. Now she was curious, eager, and full of strange knowledge. Logan started calling her little engineer, and she didn't mind. She repaired small circuits with her thin fingers. She crawled into tight spaces Logan couldn't reach. She even taught him a few alien words, especially ones for fixing things. The ship slowly came back to life, piece by piece, heartbeat by heartbeat. One night, as they sat in the cockpit, Logan showed her Earth, blue oceans, green forests, clouds. Like soft paint. Is that where you live? She asked. Used to, he replied. Before the war. She looked at him. Do you miss it? He nodded. Every day. Ziri touched his hand gently. We go there one day? He looked into her eyes and smiled. Maybe one day, when we're not running anymore. But trouble never stayed far. Their food supply was low, water filters weak, and now, their location had been pinged by an unknown source, Ziri spotted. At first, a flashing dot on the radar. She ran to Logan. Someone is watching us. Logan checked the system. She was right. Someone nearby had sent a probe signal. Could be scavengers, he said, or worse. He turned off all power and darkened the ship. Time to hide again. Ziri watched as he made fast, careful moves. She helped him pack emergency bags, food, tools, a small blaster. If they come, she said, we run. Logan looked at her. If they come, we protect each other. Ziri nodded with quiet courage in her eyes. But even in the silence, hope wasn't lost. Ziri placed one of her glowing stones on the control panel. Why? Logan asked. Crystal. Sing softly, she said. Maybe kind ears will hear. Logan wasn't sure what that meant, but he let it stay. The next morning, the ship was still quiet. No signs of visitors, no danger yet. But Logan noticed something strange. Systems were stabilizing faster. The crystal Ziri left was pulsing gently, sending waves through the ship. Not just energy, but something else. He ran a scan, and what he saw stunned him. The ship's core was sinking with the stone. Power efficiency was rising, and the sensors were clearing faster. Ziri's small gift had changed something deep inside the vessel. Maybe it wasn't just a rock. Maybe it was alive. Ziri, he said. What are these stones really? She looked at him quietly, then whispered, "Pieces of home." Logan nodded, understanding a little more. Maybe her world was lost, but her people had left behind more than memories. They left knowledge, power, and a girl brave enough to share it. Later, Ziri sat near the window again. She looked at the stars and smiled to herself. "I'm not scared now," she said. Logan glanced at her from the side. "Why not?" "Because," she said, "I fix things now." And indeed she had not just wires or crystals, but something deeper: trust, and maybe, just maybe, the broken heart of a lonely human too. Asterisk. The ship was finally running again. Not perfect, not fast, but alive. Logan had repaired the engine, and Ziri had fixed the crystal heart. Together, they had made something broken into something strong. But in deep space, strength was never enough for long. A distress signal came while they were eating. A simple repeated cry across the stars. Ziri stopped chewing and looked up sharply. "That voice," she whispered. "It's from my people." Logan stood. "You're sure?" She nodded, her eyes wide and wet. "It's the old call," she said. "A help signal only nobles use." Logan checked the source. It was far, drifting near an unstable asteroid belt. Going there would burn their fuel and risk their safety. But Ziri had already made her choice. "We go," she said. "Someone's still alive, maybe from my home." Logan looked at her, his hands tight around the console. "You sure?" "It might be a trap." Ziri took a deep breath. "If someone risk call, they must be very alone." Her voice trembled, but her eyes were steady. They changed course. Flying through dust and broken rocks, the belt tore at the ship's shield, cracking old panels, but they pressed on, following the signal deeper into danger. Finally, they saw a small pod floating, barely powered. A single light blinked weakly inside. Logan brought the ship close, scanning for life. "One life form," he said. "Very weak." Ziri stood beside him, hands shaking. "Open the bay," she said. "I'll go." Logan turned, surprised. "You sure?" "Yes," she said. "They might trust me." "Not you." Logan opened the airlock, keeping the ship steady. Ziri floated out using the tether, her body small in the emptiness of space. She reached the pod, opened it with careful hands. Inside was a girl tiny like her, blue-skinned, barely breathing. Ziri's eyes filled with tears. "She's from my world," she whispered. "Maybe even my family." She pulled the girl into her arms, carried her back. Logan helped them in, placing the girl on a warm pad near the core. Her chest rose slowly, fighting for life. But something was wrong. The pod had drained Ziri's own energy. Her hands were cold, her skin pale. She sat down hard, breathing fast. Logan knelt beside her. "Ziri, what's happening?" She smiled weakly. "Crystals take from us too, when we give too much." Logan grabbed the medkit, searching for something, anything. "Hold on, Ziri, just breathe," he said. She touched his hand. "The girl. She's alive." "That's enough." "No," Logan said. "You're not leaving me too." He ran to the console, searching every file she had taught him. Then he remembered the crystal harmonics she used before. He placed one of her glowing stones near her chest and began humming. His voice shook, unsure, but he kept going. The stone flickered, then glowed. Ziri blinked slowly, her color returning. "You learn fast," she whispered. "From the best teacher," Logan replied with a smile. She closed her eyes again, not from pain, but peace. Beside her, the other alien girl stirred, her breathing deeper. Hours passed. Ziri rested in a warm blanket, weak but safe. The new girl, barely older than Ziri, opened her eyes and stared around in fear. Logan approached slowly. "I'm Logan," he said gently. "You're safe here," she spoke softly, words Logan didn't understand. Ziri sat up and translated. "She thanks you, but wants to know where her parents are." Logan said nothing. Ziri did too. The silence answered what words could not. Later, Ziri sat with the girl, stroking her hair. "She is like I was," she said. "Scared alone, thinking the stars are full of monsters." Logan looked at her. "Then maybe she needs a Logan too." Ziri smiled sadly. "She already has one, me." Logan nodded. "Then let's both protect her." They began rebuilding the sleeping pod into a small room for the new girl. Ziri chose soft lights, warm colors, and placed a crystal in the corner. "This will sing to her while she sleeps," she said. Logan watched as she moved slowly. Tired but full of care, she had nearly given her life for a stranger. For her kind. Later that night, Logan found her sitting in the cockpit, staring at the stars, arms wrapped around herself. He sat beside her quietly. "Why did you really go out there?" he asked. Ziri whispered. "Because no one came for me. But I could come for her." Logan didn't speak. He simply leaned back in his seat and looked out at the stars. Side by side, they sat in the silence of space, not as a rescuer and rescued, not as a human and alien, but as two souls who had chosen to care, even when it hurt. The stars outside drifted quietly, but inside the ship, everything had changed. Ziri was no longer the frightened girl hiding in a cage. She now moved through the ship with confidence, guiding the younger alien girl, teaching her, protecting her. Logan stood by the engine room, watching them with quiet pride. He remembered the day he found Ziri cold, scared, ready to bite. Now she was laughing softly, holding the little one's hand. The ship felt warmer, more alive. And for the first time in years, Logan didn't feel alone. They named the rescued girl Leah. She didn't speak much, but her eyes slowly began to lose their fear. Ziri brushed her hair, sang soft humming songs, and placed a glowing crystal near her sleeping place every night. "This keeps the nightmares away," Ziri told her gently one evening as Logan adjusted the navigation system. A signal beeped, a soft, distant ping coming from a region marked as unknown. He checked twice, and his hands began to tremble. The signal was from Ziri's home world, or what was left of it. Ziri walked in as the screen lit up with a broken message. Her eyes went wide, and her voice dropped to a whisper. "That symbol. It's royal." Logan stared at her. "Your family?" Ziri nodded slowly. "Maybe someone survived. They had a choice to make, stay hidden or answer the call. Fuel was low, risks were high, but Logan didn't hesitate. "We go," he said. "This might be the path home." Ziri placed her hand on his. "Thank you, Logan." They traveled for days, weaving through old war zones and forgotten systems. The closer they got, the more unstable the ship became. Panels sparked and lights flickered. But the heart of the ship, the crystal core Ziri had once touched, glowed stronger. It was guiding them. Finally they reached the planet. What remained of it floated in fragments, like a shattered gem, but hidden deep inside one of the broken moons. A signal blinked strong and clear. They landed the ship on a flat, silent cliff. Ziri and Leah stepped out, holding hands, Logan walking beside them. A small group waited, their tall figures in long cloaks. Their faces were worn, their bodies tired, but when they saw Ziri, they gasped. One stepped forward, eyes full of disbelief. "Princess Ziri?" the woman said in a cracked voice. Ziri froze, her eyes wide. I'm no princess," she whispered. The woman knelt. "You are the last child of the crystal line. We thought you were lost forever." Ziri looked back at Logan, confused and overwhelmed. He gave her a small nod. "You were never worthless, Ziri," he said. "You were royalty all along." Ziri stepped forward, tears running down her cheeks. "But I don't know how to be a princess," she said. The woman smiled. You already are. You saved a child, she added, looking at Leia. You guided a human through our songs, and you returned when you could have stayed away. Ziri lowered her head, her heart full of emotion she couldn't explain. Later, they stood together near the edge of the cliff. The stars above were quiet, peaceful. Ziri turned to Logan. You could stay here, she said. They would welcome you too, Logan smiled sadly. I think it's your world that needs you more than I do. Ziri grabbed his hand. No, she said. You're part of this too. You didn't just save me, she whispered. You gave me a reason to believe. And now I want you beside me. Not as my rescuer, she said, but as my family. Logan stared at her, unsure what to say. For so long, he had been drifting, fighting ghosts, avoiding memories, but here, in the light of this broken world, he had found something unexpected, a place to belong. He smiled and nodded slowly. All right, Ziri, he said, let's build something new. Together, Ziri smiled back, then looked up at the stars, her heart no longer afraid, her soul no longer alone. From a cage in a dark cargo bay to the edge of her broken homeworld, Ziri had walked a path few could survive. But she did more than survive. She changed, she helped, she healed, and she gave hope. Not just to herself but to others, and somewhere far beyond the stars, legends would be told, not of war or monsters, but of a tiny alien girl who once feared a human would devour her. But instead, he saved her. And she saved him right back.